This week in Jamaica Now, unimaginable destruction, dozens of communities cut off, and a nation begins the long road to recovery. Coming up, the faces, the damage, and the fight to rebuild Jamaica after Hurricane Melissa. I'm Jovan Johnson, and this is Jamaica Now. Jamaica is slowly emerging from the devastation left behind by Hurricane Melissa, a record-breaking storm that has shattered homes, cut off entire communities, and left scores of residents desperate for help. In this week's Jamaica Now, we have comprehensive coverage of the destruction and the national response as Jamaicans tell their stories of loss, despair, and hope. Government ministers also outline the scale of the crisis and efforts now underway to reach those hardest hit. After almost a week of crawling, Melissa made landfall in New Hope, Westmoreland about noon on Tuesday, becoming the strongest hurricane to slam the island in decades. It unleashed winds of 185 miles per hour, brought towering storm surge and rainfall in excess of 30 inches. 19 deaths were confirmed up to October 31. Now, from St. Thomas to Westmoreland, the story is one of heartbreak and loss. Entire towns remain cut off and bridges washed out and power lines down. More than half the country living in darkness as frantic relatives try to make contact with their loved ones. In Westmoreland, the parish where the hurricane made landfall, bodies were trapped in communities for days as floodwaters and fallen trees blocked access. Jamaicans have been telling their stories of bravery. In Black River, St. Elizabeth, a mother, Nicola Gowdy, gave a gripping account of how she fled her home on Crane Road for safety after Melissa came knocking.
The hurricane take off the house that mom, and my son ball out because me in a film room here, so I try to finish pack up fast, and him ball up and me grab him off of the bed, and the mattress blow gone. Then after that now we say we are evacuating because he cannot walk because he just pull the plaster. And when the Thursday before the storm he pull the plaster. So the doctor said the foot don't heal, so enough to go up on it, not even an inch. And then when my husband lift him up and we try to get him in the car now, we find out, say, as we look around, so, what's this a water cover we? Charlie, we have to jump out of the car. I say, no, better we make it fall upon we, because if we stay in the car, we're going to drown. And we pull it back fast and run out back and we sit on here, so we say, grab everything, sting we, and you see the east place just swell. Then we say, no, we can't take it no more. And I tell my husband, no, if we cut piece of the rope, some of the black rope we have all the rope right now. And we put our oil drum panny, and my son, we put my son panny and haul him go out there and haul him because him can't swim, me can't swim, my son can't swim, but him foot break. And I saw it haul, and then he turned his son, he haul with panny, because the breeze a jag with so, you know, a jag with towards him or us, you know. Right now, mom told me fed up, God no. One night time we all had a plan to give up. And we say we don't see no captain, no at all for help with. No vehicle, nobody. Last night, now we're here, people are going to loot. One thief car. Why? All we have said, God, no, what we're going to eat tonight, we don't have nobody for turn to no at all. This is all our hard work kids. All our work kids, God. We don't have no, with TV, Michael, we have everything, God. Michael, we have TV, washing machine, everything, God. I don't know how I'm going to do me. Sometimes God knows me not say, why God knows me take me? Because I'm fed up.
Similar stories of horror and hope have emerged in the aftermath of Melissa.
It's just that government do them thing and we have to wait for them process. But as me state before, them did do cleaning of drain. That is no farmer, like them clean all drain, everything has to clean. Them clean everywhere. What I see in my facility. So as I say, this is just one of the disasters will come, but only error me have to emphasize on the fact is that the interval, if it did turn down a bit lower and not open wide and well, the water would have subsided from my mother's house and neighbor across more swiftly. But it will, and there's nothing we can do about it.
How long have you been here in Holland Bamboo?
From yesterday.
Where were you during Hurricane Melissa?
Higham Village.
You were in Higham Village?
Yes, I come here to help clean, and I get a lot of cuts. Yeah.
So you came here to clean and then you got stuck, or you're just staying to help?
I'm just staying to help, because One of the soldiers is my brother, so I'm trying to help because everybody want to go home. No roof, nobody no roof and then yard. Go through in Highland Village.
You know what's weird?
Where we go through in Highland Village.
So tell me, what has the situation been like since you've been here since yesterday? What's been happening?
Nobody
It is very stressing. We can't go, we can't come, we can't hear from our family members.
Working on the clearing.
It is very stressing out here. It is. It's very stressing out here. We don't know what to do. We are hungry, we are thirsty, we are dry.
Trees fell in this house. A family of 5 living here. One person suffered a broken limb. We're thankful that no loss of life was caused. And as you can see, persons are here. The community has come out to try to help them to clear or salvage what they can from what has happened to them. We have total roof loss. Lots of persons' houses just flat within the different area, like the Gaza area, the Gulf area. Some persons had to relocate to the Pentecostal church down the road. But we're trying our best to see how to help the people, trying to get some food, some tarpaulin and all of that, getting the people registered so we can get some help to them.
About 7 o'clock the water started rise, so I get out the house and I came to my next door neighbor house. Oh. We figure this is an upstairs house and we never know the water would come up here too. So when we find out that the water keep coming up to the upstairs, we call the help and we get up. Yeah.
How was that for you? That must have been a frightening experience for you, sir.
Yes, because I can't swim, but I got a stroke, so I can't swim right now. So I was really scared, you know. The fireman, they come and really never hesitate. I jump on the ladder and I get out.
And you spent the entire night in your vehicle up here?
Yes, right. It was pretty cold because I was wet. Somebody bring me a pants, but you know, it's okay now, it's all right now.
Meanwhile, some of the individual stories include a woman who was 8 months pregnant among the dead in central Westmoreland following the passage of Hurricane Melissa. She has since been identified as 18-year-old Monique Coke. Reports are that Miss Coke, her mother and a younger brother were in their 2-bedroom wooden house in Waterworks Petersfield in Westmoreland when it collapsed during the passage of the hurricane. An official at the Savannah Lamar Public General Hospital told the Gleaner that the woman was pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital on Wednesday. Now, on Tuesday, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness declared Jamaica a disaster area, triggering legal mechanisms to deal with resources and coordination. A day later, he visited Black River in St. Elizabeth, where he saw firsthand the devastation to homes and infrastructure. He said the damage was heartbreaking. The parish capital, Black River, and the community tourism hub of Treasure Beach were among the areas battered. Ahead of the landfall, Mr. Holness said he did not believe there is any infrastructure within the region that could withstand the Category 5 storm. On Thursday, the Prime Minister toured Westmoreland, meeting residents who had lost everything. His visit followed criticisms that Westmoreland was being neglected. But Transport Minister Daryl Vaz, who has been one of the leading voices of the government's response, said the Prime Minister tried reaching Westmoreland earlier, but a helicopter could not find anywhere safe to land. Now, one woman in Russia, Westmoreland, outlined her plight to Dr. Holness.
Every roof gone, every roof, as long as you see line down this roof getting worse now we don't day. But we have life, we don't record no death run here so far, so we're good.
Which is important. If you have life, you have a
life is good, life is good.
You can replace the buildings, you can
but, hey,
alright,
if this time not teach me nothing,
what is it, what's blocking?
You see, the other day, I was saying to myself that people praise material things so much. And today is the day when everybody asks me, all right, me have life. Everybody appreciate life. At this moment, no big house no mean nothing, no big car no mean nothing, no land no mean nothing. Life is everything right now. Everybody, all right, boy, me lose my house, but me have life. We have life. My house, me lose my shop, me lose everything, but me have life. And at that we say, togetherness and life, nothing with vanity. Anybody want brag and boast now, what them all brag about? Homelessness. Rich and poor, with homeless. All are with homeless.
Rich and poor,
yeah. All my life, me never know. Movie alone, me ever see them sitting here and I never see who signed up that script here? No, who put in a script we don't know about in a real life.
The opposition leader, Mark Golding, expressed deep sadness at the national devastation caused by Hurricane Melissa, particularly in the western parishes that bore the brunt of the storm. He says the scale of destruction is heartbreaking and calls for unity in rebuilding the country. Mr. Golding on Friday toured sections of Westmoreland, including Darlaston, White House, Friendship and Grange Hill, to assess the damage and meet residents whose homes and livelihoods were affected.
It's obviously a critical time now, 3 or 4 days after the storm. People need water, they need food, and so on. And then the rebuilding needs to start. And of course, when we're doing the rebuilding, we have to do it smartly, because we realize we're in a different era now in terms of climate crisis and weather patterns, and we can't just assume that we can do it the way we did it before. We have to be more resilient in our approach. We have to be building resilience into what we do, where we do things, how we do things. But right now, the immediate need is the people and the desperate plight they're in. And so I'm glad I'm seeing it. All I can do is really advocate. We're in touch with many people abroad who want to help. Jamaica's getting an outpouring of support and love because of the goodwill that we command internationally. So we just need to translate that into actual help on the ground. The bureaucracy needs to be moved aside, but the processes must be done in a way that's transparent, and a mechanism needs to be put in place to ensure that that is done. But so far, I'm very happy to be with the people. They're glad to see me, and I wish them well, and we're going to continue to advocate for help for them because they have immediate needs that must be met.
Eastern Jamaica also suffered major damage, though not on the same scale. Days after Hurricane Melissa tore through Jamaica, parts of St. Ann remain waterlogged. In Cave Valley, a community near the Clarendon border, residents and business owners are still reeling from the worst flooding they've ever seen. Floodwaters from the Caveville River swallowed the small town, submerging homes, shops and even a gas station. Residents say it's the highest they've ever seen the water rise, nearly 25 feet deep in some places, destroying businesses and leaving millions of dollars in losses. In southern Manchester, the coastal village of Alligator Pond is rebuilding after Melissa's fierce winds and waves battered the shoreline. At the popular Little Ochi seafood restaurant, waves up to 20 feet high tore through sheds and scattered debris across the property. But the community rallied. Fishermen, residents and workers spent days cleaning up, determined to restore the business that sustains dozens of local families. And in the eastern parish of Portland, the upper Rio Grande Valley was left devastated as Melissa flattened homes and tore through farms. Many residents lost everything from roofs to entire houses, but say they're grateful to be alive. The government had issued mandatory evacuation orders for 7 flood-prone communities along the southern coast, but up to Tuesday morning, the authorities were still appealing to residents to leave. Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie lamented that the take-up of shelters by persons in the flood-prone areas was low, although he acknowledged that some persons might have left their home and gone to informal shelters. And several historical sites were left in ruin following Melissa's passage. The St. Elizabeth Parish Church had few walls standing after the storm surge on the Black River coast ripped the 300-year-old church. The Manning's School, one of the oldest in the English-speaking Caribbean, lost its key buildings, including the famous Thomas Manning Building. Westwood High, one of the oldest all-girls schools in the country, was also devastated. So too other churches. The Black River Hospital was shattered, forcing the authorities to remove services and move 75 patients to upper floors. They eventually had to be removed as water levels rose. And there's growing concern about a looming health crisis in Westmoreland. General Surgeon at the Savannah Lamar Hospital, Dr. Lincoln Cox, has issued an urgent appeal for medical assistance, describing the situation as grave. He says sterile medical supplies have run out, the blood supply is critically low, and emergency surgeries are being performed without air conditioning in the operating theatre.
Still doing emergency surgeries. Hospital theatres are down. No, the lights, with just on minimal light. There's certainly no AC in the operating theatres. But for emergencies, we still have to do them in the heat. We did an amputation last night, and I think we had a couple of emergency C-sections. The morning of the hurricane, we had done a ruptured appendix, but the emergencies are still coming in, and we expect them to increase once the road has been cleared. Right now, nothing can access the hospital effectively because most of the surrounding communities are blocked off from hospital. I mean, just listening to the police here, the police just told me that there are 6 bodies in one community that cannot be moved because there's still no access to those communities. But we expect that as time goes on and the roads are clear, we're going to get an influx of patients with emergencies, and we think mostly there are going to be more of the non-surgical type. But yes, we're going to get surgical cases, especially patients who haven't had their diabetic foot or feet dressed over long periods of time, that's going to turn into a gangrenous foot. Those who have surgical indications right now was going to be backed up for the next 2, 3, 4 days, and who knows, maybe 1 week or 2 weeks. We're probably going to have a high morbidity or mortality of those cases within the community, but we expect a high influx of them as soon as the roads are cleared.
Meanwhile, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the government is moving to deploy field hospitals across 5 western parishes after extensive damage to key medical facilities from Hurricane Melissa. He toured affected hospitals in Westmoreland, Trelawney, Hanover, St. James and St. Elizabeth on Friday.
The staff welfare is very important because many of them have lost roof and has property damage and so on. So we're now working a program to give them that support. The facilities have varying degrees of damage, but primarily roof-related and water-related damage. So we have had to be doing a lot of makeshift arrangements in terms of where patients are held, accident and emergency, and the functionality of those services while the assessment is done for the immediate or short-term cleanup and restoration.
Dr. Tufton says public health teams are also being mobilized to address food safety, vector control and sanitation risks as recovery efforts intensify. The Cayman Islands Blood Bank on Friday dispatched a critical donation of 51 units of red cells and 72 units of plasma to Jamaica's National Blood Transfusion Service to help ease severe shortages following the hurricane's passage. And at a Friday morning news conference, Information Minister Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon said the death toll following Tuesday's passage of the hurricane was 19 but expected to rise. 3 persons died during preparation for the storm. Minister Dixon also indicated that the Cabinet met on Thursday and established several subcommittees to manage the national response. Among them, a Relief and Recovery Oversight Committee co-chaired by Ministers Desmond McKenzie and Darrell Vaz, with Ministers Pernell Charles Jr., Matthew Samuda, Kamina Johnson-Smith, Robert Morgan and Mrs. Morris-Dixon as members. A separate private sector committee co-chaired by businessman Keith Duncan and Ambassador and Cabinet Minister Audrey Marks will coordinate donations from corporate Jamaica and overseas partners. Minister Olivia Babs-Grange will cooperate with faith-based institutions. And the government is pleading with the public to stay away from disaster zones to allow emergency teams safe passage.
If you don't have to go into the areas, don't. And that's still the case if you don't absolutely have to. We have a lot of convoys going in. Yesterday, our JDF teams were struggling because they were fighting with the traffic. In some areas, 4 lanes were created. And so we have to ensure that we give priority to the emergency services that are trying to get into the area. Now, I know how hard it is to know that you can't hear from your family and you want to go there, but as much as possible, let's try to keep the roads clear for those who need to get in. As we said over the weekend, by the end of the weekend, we'll have some more roads open up, and so it will be much freer flow after that point.
Dozens of motorists and emergency responders were stranded for more than 24 hours along the Holland-Bamboo Main Road in St. Elizabeth since Wednesday, surviving only on fallen coconuts after Hurricane Melissa devastated the popular stretch, cutting off access to the west. A 2-mile backup of traffic, including several ambulances, an army escort vehicle and heavy-duty trucks, stretched toward middle quarters as volunteers armed with chainsaws and machetes struggled to clear the towering bamboo debris scattered across the roadway on Thursday. Meanwhile, more than 7,000 people remained in shelters up to Friday, down from a high of more than 15,000. Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie says the persons are in 430 shelters across the country. They also said more roadways were being reopened to reach dozens of communities still cut off.
I was able yesterday, after many days, to make contact with the mayor of Falmouth, and it is not a pretty reading coming out of Falmouth, out of Trelawney especially. The municipal building has been destroyed, the infirmary destroyed, the Roads and Works Department destroyed, the courthouse destroyed, the Falmouth Market badly damaged, the Poor Relief Office badly damaged, the Disaster Office badly damaged, the fire station badly damaged. Both markets in Falmouth has been severely impacted, and the drop-in center which was used to house persons during the hurricane has been flooded out and is not fit for purpose as I speak at this time. In St. James, the municipal building has been damaged, the infirmary, the roof has gone, the walkway has been destroyed. In St. Elizabeth, the municipal building, the infirmary, the fire station, all the markets in St. Elizabeth has been severely damaged by the passage of the hurricane. Those 5 parishes have no access to communication.
Shelters were not always easy for everyone. A 76-year-old woman, Empress, refused to part with her pet dog after officials at a shelter told her the animal could not be accommodated.
Have a dog, they don't want the dogs in their shelter. I am staying with my dogs. Majority of them don't like animals. When I cook, get away from me, dog, get away from me. You're up forever. And I've seen so many dogs with noseless, foot broken up, chopped up. I've seen so many wicked things, happen to dogs that they just know they don't like animals.
In other aspects of the hurricane response, Energy and Telecommunications Minister Daryl Vaz says Jamaica's energy and communication networks are reeling from Melissa's impact. At 8 a.m. on Friday, more than 462,000 customers were without power. That's more than half of the users in the country. Minister Vaz also urged the Jamaica Public Service, the main power provider, to be more transparent with its restoration efforts. He says he told the Jamaica Public Service that the details being communicated are not enough.
And I had words with the president of JPS on coming here and told him that as of today, he's to revert back to the Beryl way of reporting. The communication that is coming out is not enough. Not enough to me, and it's not enough to those who are affected. So it's not only the amount of people who have been restored. It's how many more are to be restored and what is the projection for them to be restored. So even in Kingston and St. Andrew, right in and around where we are, there are people with no light. All they want to know so that they can plan their business is what is the issue and when is it expected. He told me that Kingston and St. Andrew, he's expecting the entire Kingston and St. Andrew to be back up by Sunday. I told him that's not good enough. He needs to publish, as they used to do on their social media and through their communication network, exactly where we are every day, which communities can expect and when.
Mr. Vaz said JPS indicated that up to 8 a.m. on Friday, most eastern parishes, including Kingston and St. Andrew, were on course to have at least 75% of power restored by Sunday. Regarding mobile communication, Minister Vaz said the system of the 2 main providers, Flow and Digicel, were badly damaged. Flow is working with satellite provider Starlink, which is owned by billionaire Elon Musk, to get families connected. Flow has 40% of its network active, mainly in the corporate area and eastern parishes, with mobile connectivity at 22%. 100,000 customers are using emergency services. Digicel, meanwhile, reports 31% of its mobile users online, with 24% of its sites on generators as towers and fibre routes receive priority attention. Regarding fuel, Petrojam, Jamaica's sole oil refinery, sustained no major damage from the hurricane. Minister Vaz says fuel distribution remains uninterrupted. Minister Vaz says he was due to meet with marketing companies and the police on Friday to help with logistics for delivery. The push for fuel turned to anger on Friday as chaos erupted at the Dunn's Total Energies gas station in Savannah Lamar in Westmoreland. The quarrel started after some in line accused others of not waiting their turn. And there has been a massive influx of relief and promises to support Jamaica's recovery efforts. Transport Minister Daryl Vaz said Friday there were more than 20 cargo flights expected with relief arriving from around the world. He also said 8 to 10 U.S. helicopters were also on the way to support distribution efforts. Sangster International Airport, which sustained heavier damage, will resume commercial flights on Saturday, joining Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston, which got back into operations earlier.
The issue of the relief and the support that we have gotten is overwhelming, and we thank our partners all across the world. You are not forgotten, and you will never be forgotten.
There have been reports of looting in several towns, including in Black River, where at least one man said they do not want to steal but are forced to because of hunger. Now, in a statement on Friday, the Ministry of Finance said it has approved the Jamaica Customs Agency to administer relief from import duty and general consumption tax on supplies and donations for recovery efforts. The tax relief period runs from October 29 to November 28 and applies to items consigned to the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, as well as approved donations to individuals and institutions. And the government says money is being mobilized to help with Jamaica's response. It says Jamaica's catastrophe bond has been triggered, paving the way for a possible full payout of $150 million to support recovery from Hurricane Melissa. Information Minister Dana Morris-Dixon gave the update on Thursday. And the Finance Minister, Favour Williams, said the bond is part of a broader disaster risk financing framework.
The first layer that we can immediately call on is the contingencies fund with $5.3 billion. Then we have the National Natural Disaster Reserve Fund with $1 billion. There are some conditions that apply, and we'll work through those. Layered on top of that are different insurance policies, and we do have 2 insurance policies with the Caribbean Catastrophe Insurance Facility, otherwise called CRIF, CCRIF. And the coverage there for tropical cyclone is US $91.6 million. And for excess rainfall, the coverage is US $37.3 million. Of course, those are also parametric insurance, meaning preset conditions. And those will be calibrated, and we will get information as to whether or not there would be a payout from that insurance. On top of that, we do have the catastrophe bond, otherwise called CAT bond, for a potential payout of $150 million if that bond is triggered.
And on Friday, the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility announced a record $70.8 million payout to Jamaica following the devastation from Melissa. It said it's the largest single disbursement in the organization's history. The funds are expected to be released in 14 days. The United Kingdom government says it is mobilizing an additional £5 million in emergency humanitarian funding on top of the £2.5 million announced earlier this week. The funding will provide humanitarian supplies, including more than 3,000 shelter kits and over 1,500 solar-powered lanterns for families whose homes were damaged and those without power. On Thursday, King Charles, Jamaica's head of state, said he was profoundly saddened by the catastrophic damage Hurricane Melissa caused across the island and the Caribbean. He praised the courage and dedication of emergency services, frontline workers and volunteers, while reaffirming his admiration for the enduring spirit and resilience of Jamaicans. Pope Leo XIV, the head of the Roman Catholic Church, has also expressed sadness at Melissa's impacts on Jamaica, Cuba and other Caribbean countries. The Jamaican government has launched a website to organize and facilitate relief aid to Jamaica amid Hurricane Melissa. The website is supportjamaica.gov.jm. The platform is being used to mobilize donations, track emergencies and coordinate recovery efforts following Hurricane Melissa. The government has warned the public to avoid fake fundraising sites not ending in .gov.jm. And the government says schools are to determine their local circumstances and may go ahead and reopen once it's safe to do so. And regarding water, the National Water Commission says more than half of its nearly 700 systems are offline. Acting Public Relations Manager of the NWC, Delana Williams, said 382 systems were down, including major ones in Hanover, Westmoreland and St. James. And before we go, on a further somber note, veteran broadcaster Barrington Barry G. Gordon, affectionately called the Boogeyman, has died. He was 70. Barry G. passed away on Wednesday at the Savannah Lamar Hospital in Westmoreland, where he'd been receiving treatment for health complications. A trailblazer of Jamaican radio, Barry G's decades-long career began at the Jamaica Broadcasting Corporation JBC in the 1970s, where his energetic style revolutionized airwaves and helped launch reggae and dancehall greats like King Yellowman and Beanie Man. His longtime friend Michael Chambers said Barry G just loved radio. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness and Opposition Leader Mark Golding have expressed sadness at Barry G's death, both hailing him for his contribution to media and entertainment. Culture Minister Olivia Babsy-Grange described his contribution to broadcasting as immeasurable. Barry G. was awarded the Order of Distinction in 2010 by the Government of Jamaica. And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. Follow us on X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram at Jamaica Gleaner, and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. Like this video on our YouTube page, turn on your notifications, and subscribe today. I'm Jovan Johnson, and you may support the Government of Jamaica's hurricane relief efforts at this site, supportjamaica.gov.jm.